Hi, my name is Aziz Kapadia. Welcome to my course on Azure Fundamentals for Beginners. This is part 3 of the course. In previous videos, we learnt about cloud concepts, Azure account and billing and create free Azure account, Azure portal and dashboards, Azure resource group. In this video, we will learn about create virtual network and subnet, create network security group and network interface card, create virtual machine, NSG configuration and how to set up rules. Let's start with virtual network or VNet. Virtual network in Azure is like creating a network for our resources to communicate with each other. It's a fundamental building block for virtual private network in Azure. It enables many types of Azure resources such as VMs to securely communicate with each other over the internet and on-premise network. It brings additional benefits of Azure's scaling, availability and isolation. VNet is created by assigning sets of IP addresses and segmentation of these addresses as subnets. We need to specify a custom private address space from RFC 1918 address allocation for private networks. RFC 1918 specifies 3 IP address ranges which are reserved to create private networks. These address ranges are number 1 10.0.0.0, 2 172.16.0.0 and 3 192.168.0.0. Address space can be divided using CIDR or classless inter-domain routing blocks. CIDR replaces older class-based addressing system. It uses variable length subnet masking or VLSM. It ends with slash and a number which specifies that the IP address has how many leading 1 bits in the routing mask. This number is called the prefix length. In the IPv4 address system, the number of addresses of a subnet can be calculated by 2 to the power 32 minus prefix length. For example, IP address 10.0.0.0/22 has 22 leading ones in the mask. So the mask would be 255.255.252.0. This block contains 2 to the power 32 minus 22 equal to 2 to the power 10 equal to 102 for addresses. First address in this range is 10.0.0.0 and the last address in the range is 10.0.3.255. Azure assigns resources a private IP address from the address space that we assign to a subnet. Azure reserves 5 addresses from a subnet IP address range and it can't be assigned to any resource in that subnet. These addresses are first and last IP addresses reserved for network identification and broadcast respectively. 3 IP addresses, second, third and fourth from starting are held by Azure for internal use. For example, if VNet is defined with 10.0.0.0/16 IP address range, then we can define one subnet and allocate whole IP address range to one subnet, or we can define multiple subnets using CIDR blocks. Let's suppose we define first subnet using 10.0.0.0/24. Then available IP addresses are 2 to the power 8 equal to 256 addresses. 10.0.0.0 to 10.0.0.255. So we have 256 minus 5 equal to 251 assignable addresses available for our use. 10.0.0.0 is used for network identification. 10.0.0.1 is used by router service. 10.0.0.2 is used by DNS service. 10.0.0.3 is reserved for future use, and 10.0.0.255 is reserved for broadcast. So first available IP address would be 10.0.0.4 and last would be 10.0.0.254. Azure specifies some important design principles which we need to keep in mind while defining networks. First principle is make sure VNet address space or CIDR block does not overlap with organization's other network ranges. This is important when we want to establish connection with the resource in other VNet. If address range overlaps, then resources won't be able to communicate with each other in these VNets. Second principle is subnet should not cover the entire address space of the VNet. We have to plan ahead and reserve some address space for the future use. Third principle recommends to have fewer large VNets than multiple small VNets. This will prevent management overhead. Fourth principle is secure VNets by assigning network security groups to the subnets beneath them. Good news is that there is no charge for using Azure VNet. It is free of cost. Standard charges are applicable for resources such as virtual machine, VMs and other products. Okay, enough theory. Now let's create a VNet. We will create one VNet with two subnets as part of this exercise. Log into the Azure portal. If favorite menu contains virtual networks in the favorite item, then click on the menu item. Otherwise, click on all services and type VNet in search box. Now click on virtual networks. Click on this add menu link to create new VNet. Azure will display form to create a VNet. Select an existing resource group or create new resource group here. Enter VNet name. VNet name can only contain letters, numbers, underscores, periods or hyphens. Name must end with a letter, number or underscore, and it can not be longer than 80 characters. Select region. It should automatically be selected as UK South as per the resource group's region. If not, then select from drop-down list. Now click on either IP addresses tab or next IP addresses button. Azure automatically assigns first address, but we can change it. Enter 10.0.0.0/22 in IPv4 address space text box. Multiple address spaces can be added here. Azure adds a default subnet, but since we have changed the IP address, so now we have to add a new one. Click on plus add subnet to add a subnet. It will open a new panel at the right side of the screen. Enter UKS-platform-appdev-SN in the name text box. Enter subnet address range. Address range should be within the VNet IP address ranges. Let's assign 10.0.0.0/24 address range to this subnet. Click on Add button to save the subnet and close the panel. Now to add another subnet, click on plus Add subnet button. Again, new panel will be opened at the right side of the screen. Enter UKS-platform-VM-SN in the subnet name text box. Enter 10.0.1.0/24 in subnet address range text box so that it would not overlap with the address range of first subnet. Click on Add button at the bottom of the form. New subnet will be added in the list. Click on Next Security button. On the Security tab, keep Bastion host disabled. Bastion is used to securely connect to a VM. We will see this option later. Keep DDoS protection to basic and keep firewall as disabled. Click on Next Tag button. Enter project and team tags and select microservice POC and platform values respectively. Click on Review plus Create or Next Review plus Create button. Azure will check the details for correctness and display the message. If it displays validation passed, then click on Create button to create the VNet. Azure will start deployment process of VNet. Once VNet is created, Azure will display a message like this. We can check the deployment details and how many resources are created during the deployment. If Go to Resource button is not enabled automatically, then refresh the page to enable it. Click on VNet name or Go to Resource button to open VNet details. We can also download deployment zip file. It contains the deployment and deployment operation JSON files. As we can see, new VNet is created with two subnets. Click on subnet's link to check it. Now let's move on to Network Security Group or NSG. NSG is an important service to secure virtual networks. We can use NSG to filter the inbound and outbound traffic in a virtual network. We can define inbound and outbound rules to allow or deny the traffic. For each rule, we can define source and destination, port and protocol. Every rule has a priority number. We can add custom rules with priority numbers between 100 and 4096. Rules are checked in ascending order. Lower number takes higher priority. Once traffic matches with rule, then processing stops and traffic will be allowed or denied based on that rule. Azure adds some default rules with higher priority numbers, and these rules cannot be deleted or edited. Let's switch to Azure portal and create one NSG. Click on All Services menu item. Type network in the search box. Azure will display all matching resources. Click on Network Security Group. Ignore the classic one if it appears in the list. Now click on Add menu item to add new NSG. Azure will open new form to add NSG. Select resource group same as we did for VNet. Enter name as UKS platform app dev NSG. Select region as UK South. Click on Next Tag button at the bottom or Tags tab on top. Enter two tags, project and team. Select values or enter it manually. Click on Review plus Create button or tab. Once Azure displays validation passed message, then click on Create button. We can see the deployment process is started. Once it's complete and display resource ready message, then go to NSG. We can see here there are two types of rules, one for inbound traffic and another one for outbound traffic. We will add some custom rules for RDP later. Now let's create network interface card or NIC. A network interface card enables an Azure virtual machine to communicate with Internet, Azure and on-premise resources. When we create a virtual machine, Azure creates a NIC with default settings, but we can create a custom NIC. We can attach one or more NIC to a virtual machine. In the Azure portal, go to All Services screen. Type NIC in search box. Click on Network Interfaces Service. Click on this Add menu item. Azure will open a form to define NIC. Azure provides uniform user experience for all resources to add, edit and delete. Select resource group. Enter name as UKS-platform-appdev-nic. It has same naming rules applied as VNet. Select region as UK South. Select VNet if it is not already selected. Select subnet as UKS platform VMSN, which we created with our VNet. Network security group should be automatically populated. If not, then select NSG, which we just created. Go to Tags tab and create project and team tags, as we are doing for all our resources. Click on Review plus Create button or tab. Once validation is complete and Azure displays validation passed message, then click on Create button. Wait for the deployment process to complete. Once it is done, then go to NIC to check. We can see Azure has assigned first available IP to this NIC from the selected subnet. Now let's create a public IP and attach it to NIC so that we could attach it to our VM. From the main menu, select All Services and type public in search box. Hover over public IP addresses and click on plus create. Azure opens new page to add public IP address. In the name text box, type UKS demo VM IP. Select resource group, select location as UK South and click on create button. Click on this bell icon to see the deployment progress. But since this deployment doesn't take much time, it is completed already. A new IP is added in the public IP addresses list. Now click on All Resources and select Network Interface Card. We will attach it to our NIC. Click on IP configuration on left hand side vertical menu and click on plus add button in the main menu. Azure will open a panel at right hand side of the screen. Enter UKS demo VM config in the name text box. Click on Associate for public IP address. A new list box will be displayed. Select new public IP, which we just created previously. Click on OK button at the bottom of the panel. A new configuration is added in the IP configuration list and the type of it is secondary. Now click on these three dots and select Make Primary to make this public IP configuration primary. After Azure finishes process, we can see this configuration is now set as primary. Next, we will create a Windows virtual machine. Hover over virtual machine, favorite menu item, or go to all services page and hover over virtual machines. Then click on plus create link in pop-up window. Azure will open a new form to create virtual machine. Select resource group. Enter VM name as UKS demo Win01 VM. Select region as UK South. Availability options. There are two availability options available to choose from. Availability set and availability zone. We will discuss these options in detail in upcoming videos. For now, select no infrastructure redundancy required. Select VM image. There are some images listed here, but we can see more images by clicking this link. There are large number of options available. These images contains pre-configured setting to create VM as per requirement. We can create a deployment server or web server or Git server using these images. For now, select Windows Server 2019 data center image. Next option is for size. Azure provides various size options. Check this page for VM size options. Azure provides various options for different types of requirements. Select standard B2S-2 virtual CPUs 4 GB memory size. If we keep this machine on for 24/7, then it will cost pound 30.03 per month. But if we shut down and deallocate when it is not required, then it will not cost that much. Remember, just shutdown is not enough. Machine should be deallocated to stop charges. Enter username and password for the machine. Password value should be between 12 and 123 characters long. It should include three of the following: one uppercase character, one lowercase character, one number, and one special character. Retype the password to confirm it. Select none for public inbound ports. We will configure it using NSG. If we allow any port here, then it will be accessible from any IP address. Next, select disk. Keep it default for now and go to Network tab. Here we can see all our pre-provisioned virtual network, subnet, etc. Select correct subnet here. Select none for public IP here. We will attach the NIC we created earlier with public IP to this machine manually once it is deployed and ready to use. For NIC, select Advanced option, which will allow us to select predefined NSG. Select the NSG we created earlier. We can put this machine behind a load balancer. There are two options available: Azure Load Balancer and Application Gateway. For now, select No. Go to Management tab. Keep everything off here. Here we can configure auto shutdown, which will save some money. We will do it later. Go to Advanced tab. Select Gen 2 from VM generation options. Go to Tags tab and create two tags. Click on Review plus Create tab or Review plus Create button to validate the information. Once Azure displays validation passed message, Then click on Create button. It will take a while to deploy all resources. We will come back when it is done. Deployment is now complete and Azure has created some other resources with the VM. Azure has also created new NIC for VM with a private IP. We will attach the existing network interface manually. For that, open VM properties and stop the VM on Overview tab. Once it is stopped, then go to Networking tab. Now click on Attach Interface. Select existing NIC. Click on OK button. Azure will start the process. We can see it here. Once it is done, then we can see both the NICs here. Now click on Detach Network Interface. Select the network interface created by Azure with VM. Click OK to remove the NIC. Once it's done, go to Overview tab and start the VM. We can see now it has two IPs are assigned, one public and one private. Although now we have attached NIC with public IP address, if we try to RDP to the Windows VM, it wouldn't work since we have not opened any RDP port during VM creation. Let's try it. Click on Connect tab on the left hand side and then click on Download RDP file. Select Open with option and click on OK to open the RDP session. If Windows displays a dialog box, then click on Connect to continue. It will try to establish RDP session and display a message that RDP connection can't be established. Here it is. Let's add security rule in NSG to allow RDP to virtual machine from our selected IP. Click on Networking tab and click on NSG to open NSG Details Blade. Azure opens a new blade whenever new window is required for navigation. Once we close it, then we can go back to previous screen. We can also use horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the screen to check previous blade. Let's click on Inbound Rules. Click on Add button. For the source, select IP addresses and enter the IP for which we want to allow the RDP. For the source port, we can enter star to allow everything from our home. In the destination, keep any selected. We can also select IP addresses and then enter VNet IP range. In the destination port range, enter 3389 to allow only RDP port. Select protocol as TCP. Action, leave it for now. Allow. Priority value, keep it 100 so that this rule will take highest priority. Change name to remote connection. Click on Add button. Now go back to VM. Select the Connect tab. Click on Download RDP file. Select Open with option and click on OK button in the dialog box shown to open the RDP session. Click on Connect button if it shows confirmation dialog box. Now in the credentials window, click on More choices and then select Use a different account. Enter username and password which we had configured while creating the VM. If certificate warning dialog box is displayed, click on Yes. And now it is logging on to the machine. As you can see, now we are able to access the VM using RDP. That's it for now. In next video, we will discuss redundancy options such as availability set, availability zone and scale sets available for VM. Until then, do your homework and create VNet, Subnet, NSG, VM, etc. which we have learned in this video. Let me know if you have any difficulty. Thanks for watching this video. Please leave your comment below. Also, let me know if you have any suggestion. It will help me in preparing better content. Please click on subscribe button and share it with somebody who you think this could help.